Usually what happens in access specifier, if I'm going to declare it as private, then I used to say that data as well as function can able to access only by member function. If you want to write the statement outside the class, then we does not require scope resolution operator. Whatever data is there, the private or it may be protected, that data can also be accessed by this friend function. Welcome back to One and All. Myself, Vasanta, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Today, we will start with the third session on function overloading chapter. Whereas already in the previous session, we have studied regarding inline function. It is a short function where the compiler will replace the function called by the body, and on that the advantages of inline function, then disadvantages of inline function, and exactly the inline function when it will not work, the situation where inline function will not work. Then with that you have studied one program on inline function. Whereas in today's class you will come to know regarding the friend function. What do you mean by friend function? What are the advantages of friend function? The syntax of a friend function, and a program using friend function, and the features of friend function. Whereas in the previous session, I told you regarding the concept of this chapter, you have only three concepts. One is the function overloading concept, then the second one is inline function, and the last one is friend function. Whereas in function overloading concept, especially on that, you will get the questions like what is function overloading, write the advantages, disadvantages, and one program you have to study. In function overloading, you have to study the features or definition. First, you have to know the definition, plus with that, you have to know the advantages, then disadvantages, then you have to know the program. In the same way, in inline function also, the main thing, definition with that syntax, then advantages, disadvantages, as well as program you have to study. But when they come on friend function, only you have to study regarding the definition, then the syntax of a friend function, with that one program as well as features regarding friend function you have to know. Then only you can be able to answer the question on this particular chapter. Whereas, what do you mean by friend function? What are the main advantages of using friend function? Friend function, the name itself says that it is a friend of a class. It is not a member function. It is not belongs to the families of that particular class. It is a non-member function. What do you mean by this non-member function? Here, this function cannot able to present inside the class only. Here it is not present inside the class, but it is just a friend of the class. But it can able to access your private items as well as protected items. In the class, you have data members. If you consider in the class we have class name. In this, we have data members. For example, it may be private, protected, public, anything. There you may have data members as well as member function. Then here you are going to close the class. For example, here we have opened the class and here we have closed the class. Whereas friend function is not belongs to this particular class. It is not belongs to this particular class, but it is just a friend of a class. But it can able to access your data members as well as member function. It can able to access. It is having the privilege to access your private items. I'm going to give an example. For example, consider a member function. On that member function, for example, family members we are going to consider. On that, you have one laptop. That laptop can be used only by the family members, like father, mother, sister, only they used to use that, is it? No. For example, one of your friends visit your house with your permission. With your permission, they can able to access your private items like laptop. It means that here, friend function is a non-member function. It is not belongs to this class. Ee class ge sammathapatta function alla. But it has the access rights of your private items, like it may be data or it may be functions. Friend function is a non-member function. Already I told it is not belongs to a class. It is a non-member function. That is a friend of a class. It is just a friend. It is not belongs to family members. It is just a friend of a class. A friend function is declared within the class with the help of, with the prefix of friend. Before writing that function, we have to mention it as it is just a friend of a class. Compulsory, we have to prefix with friend only. Then only we can able to access your private data as well as protected data, functions, everything. Whereas the functions that are declared within the keyword friend are known as friend function. Before writing that mention or before mentioning that particular function, if I am going to write it as friend, then it is not belongs to that particular class. It is just a friend of a class. A friend function is not a member function, but it has full access rights. It can able to access your private item, access rights to the private protected members of the class. Usually what happens in access specifier, if I'm going to declare it as private, then I used to say that data as well as functions can able to access by only by member function. But here this friend function can also able to access your private as well as protected item in the class, but it is just a friend of the class. Now we'll explain the syntax of friend function. Then consider we have class, under that we have class name. For example, here I am to take class. The class name I am to give it as add. The class name we are given as add. Then after that we will open the flower bracket. That means here we have opened the class. Then in public section it does not affected by whichever may be the access specifier, where it may be private, public, protected, anything. There compulsory we have to use the keyword friend. Then you have to mention the return type after calculation, which type of value you want to generate. For example, int. Then afterwards you have to mention the function name, whichever that is a friend of a class. For example, compute is the friend function. Then afterwards you have to write the class name, for which class it is a friend. Whereas in this case it is a friend of a class add. Then you have to write the object. Then afterwards you have to close the semicolon, or you have to put semicolon. If you write semicolon here itself, then the statements you can able to write outside the class. If you want to write the statement inside the class only, then here only you have to open the bracket, hide here whatever statement you want for the friend function, write down the statements, and then later on you have to close the class. That means if you observe the syntax, compulsory you have the major concept class, then class name, open the bracket. Here friend is the keyword here we have to use. Then you have to mention the return type. Then next you have to write the function name. Then afterwards for which class it is a friend, that class name you have to mention. Then object. Then you have to close the class. This syntax itself carries 2 marks in the annual exam, because in the exam you will get the question, especially under friend function. What is friend function? Write the syntax, or write the program of friend function, or write the features of friend function. Like that you will get the questions. Now already you come to know the definition of a friend function. Friend function is a non-member function, but it can able to access your private as well as protected items in a class. It is a non-member function. It means that it does not belongs to a class, it's just a friend of a class. Then you studied regarding the syntax of a friend function. Next, we will explain with one program. For example, I want to perform addition of 2 numbers. For example, I want to compute or I want to calculate the addition of 2 numbers. First, we want to start with the class. Before starting the class, we are writing the header file as include iostream.h. This is the supporting header file for CIN as well as COUT. In the program, we need CIN statement as well as COUT statement. For CIN as well as COUT, the supporting header file is iostream.h, that is standard input output stream. Then we are starting with the class. The class name here we are given as addition. Class name is we are given as addition. Then here in private section, if I am not declared any access specifier, then default it will take it as private. Here if you want you can write private, or if you not write anything, then also by default it will take it as private access specifier. Then here we have 2 variables A and B, integer format. A and B. Then here in public section, we have one member function here. It is a member function. It is not a friend function. It is a member function. Here the return type we are given as void and the function name is get data. On this, we have two statements. One is here enter two values. Then in the output screen, you will get enter two values. Because you are written inside the double quotes, whatever thing you are written, that will display as it is. Then see in input operation, extraction operator A, extraction operator B. For example, here I am going to give 2 as well as 3 is the value. For A, it will take 2 and for B, it will take 3. Then next, friend int compute addition M we are given. It means that now we are using the keyword friend. It is a non-member function. It is a non-member function. We are using the keyword friend. From that only I can identify it is a friend of a class. And here we are given int. After calculation, the result here it has to generate in integer format. Then here the function name we are given as compute. Whereas in this particular program, we have two functions. One is void get data function and one more is compute function. But void get data function is a member function that belongs to this particular class addition only. But if you come on compute function, it is a non-member function. How to identify it's a non-member function? Before this, we have the keyword friend. Then here we are given the return type is integer. Then here we are mentioning for which class it is a friend. That is for addition class it is a friend and M is the object name. If you want, you can write the statement outside the class also for this friend function. If you want to write the statement outside the class, then we does not require scope resolution operator. Whereas for generally, scope resolution operator is used to define the member function outside the class. To write the statements regarding that particular function outside the class, we need the scope resolution operator. Whereas if I want to write the statement of this friend function, if I want, I can write outside the class also, but still I does not require the scope resolution operator. It is just a friend of a class. Then here the return, the calculation we are given m.a plus m.p. If I want to access any data, especially in friend function, then it has to write the object name dot data members. The object name here we are given as m.a plus m.b. I am doing the calculation that is written m.a plus m.b. Here a and b is the variables in this function, especially on the class addition, these are the data members. But here we are accessing m.a we have to write. Directly we cannot access the values, but we need the help of object name dot member name. If I want to access any data or any functions, then I have to mention the object name dot data members. Whereas in generally, how we will write? Here written a plus b we will write to perform addition is it no. Whereas here, what we have to write m.a with the help of object only I can able to access. That is m.a. By that I can able to access the values. Then the return value I am going to getting a plus b. The result here it has to generate in integer format. Then we have closed this particular function. Then later on we are closing the class. If you observe here, totally two functions are there. One is get data function. It is a member function. And one more is compute function. It is a non-member function. It is not belongs to this addition class. It is a non-member because before that function name, here we have the keyword friend. Here we have done the calculation. Then later on, here we open the class and here we are close it. But when we come on main program, here we are creating the object. How to create object? The class name we are given as addition, then m is the object name. Whatever name you want for object, that name you can give. Whereas on this case, I given the object name is m. Then if you observe m.getData function, then when I am going to write object.getData function, then this particular part here it is going to execute. Then in the output screen you will get enter two numbers. then you will input A and B values. That is, it's a member function. Now I want to call the friend function. For the sake, see out sum equals. Then in the result, sum equals, here it will display. See out, inside the double quotes are written, then it will not do any calculation. As it is, it will display. Then I am going to calling the friend function. Whereas in other cases, if it is member function, object dot get data or object dot member function we used to write. Whereas here, no need to call, no need to use the object name. Directly here, before writing the object name, directly you have to write the function name, then inside the bracket object you have to mention. Whereas in other cases, how you will write? Object m dot get data, like that we will write. Whereas if I want to call m dot compute, like that we used to call in other cases if it is member function. But here this compute is not a member function, it is a friend function. For the sake, compute inside the bracket object name you have to write. Then close this main program. Then when I call this compute m function, then it will take the values a and b and it will going to add, then the result we are going to get 5. Now is it clear? It means that friend function has the rights to access your private data. In the program we are declared as private, but still this friend function can able to access that your private data as well as protected data. In the same way, it can able to access the public data also. Now is it clear? Because in the exam, you will get the question, what is friend function? Explain with an example program. On that case, the program itself carries 4 marks and definition carries 1 mark. Next, I am going to explain regarding the features of a friend function. Because already I told you, in friend function, there are 3 major concepts you have to study. That is friend function definition, syntax. Then one program. With that, you may want to get the questions like the features of friend function. Then if the friend function cannot be called using the object of that class, it can be invoked like any other normal function. If you observe the example program, here when we're calling the program, especially when we're calling the function, then we does not require object here. That is the first point. A friend function cannot be called using object of that class. We does not require to call the function object. They can be invoked like any other normal function. The friend function declaration can be placed anywhere in the class declaration. If I want anywhere in the program, especially in the class, anywhere I can write. Whether it does not depend on which access specifier we are using. Whether it is private, public or protected. It does not affected by any access specifier. Anywhere in the program we can able to declare. If you observe here, if I want I can declare. Outside also I can able to declare. A friend function declaration can be placed anywhere in the class. It cannot affected by the access specifier control keywords like private, public and protected. If you observe here it may be private or public or protected, that doesn't matter here. Access specifier is not important here. Whichever access specifier that we can mention, but it does not affect anything here. Whereas in another cases, if it is private function or private access specifier, then only we used to say only member function can able to access. If it is protected, then member function can able to access, as well as derived function with that friend function can also able to access. Then next point, the major point here, it cannot access the member variables directly and it has to use the object name dot member name. If you observe the example here, to access the values a and b, we used to write the object name here we are given as m dot a. The data members you have to mention. Object name dot data members. That is, it cannot access the members directly. Directly, it cannot able to access any values. If it is wants to access, then it has to mention object name, then dot member name. See, object name dot member name only you have to write. The function is declared with the keyword friend, but while defining the friend function, it does not use either the keyword friend or scope resolution operator. See, if you observe here, if I want to write this function outside the class, then I does not require the scope resolution operator. Directly I can write int. Without using this, I can write int, then compute function. Here, whichever arguments or class name that you can write, then you can write the statement, then later on you can close that. It means that we does not require the scope resolution operator. This scope resolution operator is used to define the member function outside the class, as well as this scope resolution operator tell you that particular function belongs to which class. Okay, that is the last point here. The friend function is declared with the keyword friend. While defining friend function, it does not use either the keyword friend or scope resolution operator. While if I want to define the member function outside the class, then I need scope resolution operator. If I want to define the friend function outside the class, then I does not require the keyword friend once again. Then with that, I does not require the scope resolution operator. And the last point, use of friend function is rare. Why it is rare? Because already I told you, private things can access it by only family members, I used to say, that is member functions. But here, your private things also can able to access here. That means here, it mainly violates the data encapsulation. Easily the other function, it is not belongs to member function or class, that can also able to access here. The use of friend function is rare since it violates the rule of encapsulation. What do you mean by data encapsulation? Encapsulation is nothing but combining data and function into single unit for security purpose. Consider you have the mobile. On that mobile, you have data members as well as member functions. Consider data members as well as member function you have. Whereas here, usually the encapsulation will combine these data members as well as member function. For example, data members is nothing but contacts. Member function is nothing but set of operations like WhatsApp, Bluetooth, incoming call, outgoing call. That can be called as function. Whereas data encapsulation will combine this data and function into single unit. By that, I can able to secure the data here. Whereas here, whatever data we have secured, that also can access it by this friend function. That's why it is very rare. With that, it violates the rule of encapsulation as well as data hiding. We cannot able to hide the data. We cannot give any security for the data. Whatever data is there, the private or it may be protected, that data can also be accessed by this friend function. Now is it clear? Once again, I am to recall this. Friend function is a non-member function. In the exam, if you get the question, what is friend function? Then you have to write, it is a non-member function, but it can able to access private protected data of a class. Then the syntax is compulsory. We have to use the keyword friend, then return type, then function name. While writing inside the bracket, don't write the argument. On that place, write down class name as well as object name. For which class it is a friend, that you have to mention. For which object here. Then whatever statement you want, you can write inside the class as well as outside the class. Inside the class, if you want to write, then here don't put semicolon. If you want to write outside the class definition, then write down semicolon then. Then this one simple program. Here we have two functions. One is get data and one more is compute. Both are functions only, but get data is a member function, but compute is a friend function. It is a friend of class addition. It is a friend of class addition. If I want to access any data, then object name dot data members I have to write. Object name dot data members. Directly I cannot able to access. While calling the function also, we does not require object, but directly we have to write the function name, then inside the bracket you have to mention the object name. Now is it clear? Then in the exam already I told you the features is also very important. For 5 marks, In the exam, you may going to get the question, explain the features. On that first feature, it is a non-member function, but it can able to access your private protected things. Then here we does not require scope resolution operator. If I want, I can define this function inside the class or outside the class or anywhere I can define. But the main thing here, we does not require scope resolution operator. And we are using the keyword friend. And it rarely uses it because it avoids the data security. It is violates the rule of data encapsulation as well as data hiding. Now is it clear for all of you? Whereas on this chapter, you come to know regarding function overloading, definition, advantage, disadvantage and program. Function overloading, definition, advantage, disadvantage and program. In the inline program also, definition, that is what you mean by inline function definition, advantage, disadvantage and program. But when they come on friend function, their definition, syntax, on the place of advantage, disadvantage, you have to know the features of friend function, then one program. This completes your function overloading chapter. Next class, we will meet you once again with a new chapter. Thank you for all of you.